We have got a fun NFL DFS main slate in week number 8, in part because there are too many good plays. It's honestly disturbing to go through my notes for this slate and look at the number of quarterbacks, running backs, and receivers, and honestly, tight ends I could justify plugging into a lineup. And that's a good problem to have. I'm not going to complain, but it does force us to set priorities, make some tough decisions, be picky. That's a fun slate for us, I do think. We're going to break down today all those good plays. We'll talk about our top priorities each position, talk some game stacks, injuries, Tua Tagovailoa's return, and much more to get you ready for week number 8 in NFL DFS. Welcome on into the Heat Check, a FanDuel Research podcast. My name is JimSannes. I am a managing editor for FanDuel Research, joined here as I am every Thursday by Brandon Gdula. You can check him out on X at Gdula13. Find his work over at FanDuel Research, where he is a senior managing editor. Brandon, week 8 is looking pretty fun. How you doing today?
I'm good. I know you said you won't complain, but I'll complain. I'll take that. I'll take that responsibility. I accept it. Yeah, there's too many plays this week, and too often we don't have enough plays. I feel like it's been a little more. If you had to kind of view it on a spectrum, I feel like this year's been a little more. There's not enough plays. I feel a little too boxed in. I was going through. I like to go through. We do our salary scroll. It's something that we implemented into the end of the show. Something we transferred over from the now defunct recap show that we did.
R.I.P.
Yes. But I do that myself because what I like to do, and I honestly recommend everyone does this, because you can get. Actually, I like if you have the time, but I understand if not everyone does this, but figure out who you like and then scroll through the salaries and say, okay, this person's higher or lower than I thought. How does that change things? Last thing I ever want to do is play players in my lineups because I'm like, oh, this is a good salary. I should get there. So when I'm doing my salary scroll this week, I'm like logging, okay, a lot of quarterback likes, bunch of fun games. Okay, so many quarterbacks. That's all right because odds are there's not going to be enough running backs, receivers, and I have quarterback options for once. Do the same thing for running backs. I'm like, okay, there's a lot of running backs. There's probably then not a lot of receivers. So I'll build around these receivers. I'm going through a receiver. I'm like, okay, I'm just listing basically everybody, and this is tough. And even with nothing exemplifies this more than the fact that we went through tight end, or at least I did, and saw a lot of names that I would want to play to some degree. And again, it's kind of been a year where it's like, do I have to play a tight end? And I'm not saying that I would rather flex a tight end than other positions, but there's a lot of interesting options. So I don't know, maybe it's just my disposition at this time of year. But I think we're going to have to, we're not going to try to add players to the list. I think the goal here is going to be figure out who's maybe not worth it. We got to start removing players. So I'm starting off optimistic here, but I'm going to have to start getting pessimistic and start cutting guys out of the player pool.
I have 8 players listed at tight end who I'd consider playing. That's outrageous. Why? Why would they do this to us? Like, spread the good plays out a bit. So I've turned pessimistic too. That's good. Thank you for converting me to the dark side. But our job today will be to help all of you hopefully whittle down your lists. I think the positive is that there are good plays in each salary tier at each position. So you can kind of use that to your advantage. We'll talk about how to do that later on. But first, a reminder to make sure you are subscribed to the FanDuel Research Podcast feed, wherever you get your podcasts. We are with you every Thursday, breaking down the top DFS plays for that week's main slate over on FanDuel. So search for FanDuel Research Podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Hit subscribe, and if you like what you hear, leave us a 5-star rating and review as well. But of course, the show is now live on YouTube, 10 a.m. Eastern every Thursday, alongside our covering the spread shows, all in the same place. Talking NFL best bets later on today with Megan Payton of FanDuel TV, 4 p.m. Eastern, right here in this exact same YouTube page. So hit subscribe there. Give us a thumbs up if you're watching YouTube right now. We appreciate all of you as always, and watching out for the fact I'll put timestamps in the description for those of you watching after the fact, both in the podcast description and over on YouTube, so you can skip around to your favorite part of the show. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You'll get started with $300 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more at FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Must be 21 plus and present in select states, or 18 plus and present in DC. First online real money wager, only $5 first deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets, which expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit fanduel.com/RG in Arizona, Colorado, DC, Iowa, Indiana, Kansas, Kentucky, Louisiana, Michigan, New Jersey, North Carolina, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Illinois, Tennessee, Vermont, Virginia, West Virginia, and Wyoming. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/Chattanooga, Connecticut. Visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts, or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York. Let's kick things off here, Brandon, by talking about our slate overview for week number 8. And we kind of touched on this already, but I think it comes down to whittling down our list and making prioritizations. What to you is the slate overview for week number 8?
Yeah, I think a different version of that is, okay, we got a lot of value options at every position. We've got a lot of mid-range options at every position. And of course, almost always we have studs at every position. I think the real play for me to figure out is which of the studs do I want to play? We've got some lower salaried quarterbacks for a change. We kind of forced it. I don't even want to say forced it with Geno Smith last week. Like, it made sense. Quarterback wasn't great. It was basically Jaden Daniels and then kind of a shrug, and Geno stood out from there. This week we have, again, value in mid-range at every position. The way that I think we need to think about this, unless you're saying, I'm taking advantage of that, I think there's a lot of under-salaried kind of tier 2 superstars like your T. Higginses, your Tuas, like Tyreek Hill. He's a tier 1, but his salary's down. Want to clarify that. But unless you're just going pure balance and trying to take advantage of all of those players, you need to, and I'm saying you, kind of telling myself, I need to figure out like which superstars I'm trying to build around, because this is such an easy week to play a little bit of everybody. I don't know. I don't like to do that because the chances that I kind of put together a top 1% lineup goes drastic goes down for using some Steiner math there. So I need to figure out the studs. I think that's kind of how I'm packaging this up. I don't think it's going to be a quarterback, but it might be. But it's kind of the running backs and receivers that I truly, truly value more than anyone else this week. Got to figure that out.
I think to build on that, because I agree with you, where it's kind of whittling down our list. And that kind of, to me, reminds me of a week 1 slate where we've got a lot of good plays due to salaries being released early on, where we can be picky. And I want to be picky this week. So I don't want to use plays who are like fine. There's some guys who I liked early on this week and have kind of grown a little bit more like, do I actually need them on this kind of slate? So I want to be picky, but also to me, it lends itself to just picking a game that I want to stack, building game stacks around that, and then putting in an optimal lineup around that, because I can make an optimal lineup work around a game stack regardless of what salary I use on that game stack, because I've got value plays I like. I've got studs I like if it winds up being a lower salary game stack. And that to me is a pretty fun slate. So being picky and then building around game stacks, those to me are the two things that really do stand out across this slate. Part of the reason we can be picky is because we've got some actually good injury news for this week. Because Tua Tagovailoa expected to return this week from his concussion for the Miami Dolphins. Dolphins get the Cardinals. Pretty fun matchup there. And all the Dolphins are undersalaried. We'll talk about them in the trends section. The Chiefs traded for DeAndre Hopkins and the Tennessee Titans. Plan is apparently for Hopkins to play this week, assuming he can ramp up in time. Hopkins' salary is $5,400, Brandon. Is that low enough to tempt you with the Chiefs missing Juju Smith-Schuster in addition to all their other injuries as they take on the Raiders?
Yeah, Juju. Unfortunate there. Get well soon, Juju. I think the thing for me with the Chiefs and Hopkins here is, look, we actually got two really great receivers debuting last week with new teams, and I'm not saying just cut and paste that. Devontae and Aaron Rodgers looked a little out of sync, a lot of missed throws. I think that was maybe a little more on one of the players than the other, just airmo and some stuff. And then with Amari Cooper, I know Keon Coleman covered for him and said that he knew all the plays, but he, on his touch, did you see that clip by chance?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
he scored a touchdown on it.
He scored a touchdown, but kind of had to confirm with Keon Coleman what he was.
It's also wild that Keon Coleman's the guy he's asking for this, given Keon Coleman's a rookie. But yeah.
Well, he was just close by. He's like, well,
Yeah.
just tell me what to do. I hope I was right. Keon Coleman could have sandbagged him and kept his target share up, but he didn't. So that's a good teammate. And again, I'm not saying you cut and paste that, but we saw like solid involvement. Devontae Adams was on, I think he ran all but one route. Amari Cooper, 11 routes, but 5 targets for like an absurd target per route rate, which kind of, works out there, balances things out. What I keep coming back to is like the Chiefs don't force feed anyone anymore, even like Travis Kelce. They spread the ball around a good amount. They especially do it in the red zone. So despite all that, I feel like DeAndre Hopkins makes some sense to get some exposure to. Yeah. I would not be astonished. I would put him more in the Amari Cooper bucket, where maybe he runs like half the routes ish, but gets a 40% target per route rate, gets some high leverage looks. Would not be surprised if he scores twice. I would be surprised if he gets like 14 targets or something like that. So the salary here is so low. Cooper was, I think, 61, 62 last week, and Devontae was 69.
Yeah.
Whole different situation. It comes back to, though, do we need to? Does DeAndre Hopkins have, wow, I didn't use DeAndre Hopkins this week in his first week with the Chiefs. Therefore, I didn't place anywhere because he just goes for like, but also he might only need 21 at 54. So I see the case. Where are you?
Like my checklist is, can you get me 85 yards or 2 touchdowns? And I think you can get both. So that's kind of my easy answer, is because like last week, you said they don't force feed guys, and they don't typically, but like they did give Travis Kelce a good number of looks. Xavier Worthy at 8, and he had like 19 yards on those. They're pretty desperate. Justin Watson does not earn targets. I think that he's just kind of like a guy, like, I was looking at this, I think, yesterday on Next Gen Stats. He's either at 1.8 or 1.6 yards per route run with Will Levis and Mason Rudolph as his quarterback. And now you put him in a Patrick Mahomes-led offense. $5,400 to me is like real low. So not a cash game consideration for me, because he might just play a small role or might be off sync like Devontae and Rodgers were. But like there's enough there for a tournament where, yes, I will definitely have DeAndre Hopkins on my rosters. And even while being picky, that's one I'm okay with.
Yeah, he's at 1.82 yards per route run.
Thank you.
No, his role was, not anything absurd, early on, but you have to account for, of course, the quarterback play. So I get it. I do think this one, we have a lot of injuries to get through. I know that, but I think this one is like worth lingering on a little bit. I'm with you, not in a cash game, not in a head-to-head format, but he makes things fun for tournaments at least.
Yeah. And he also, I know last week was pretty bad for him, but he was not on the injury report. Like he didn't practice Wednesday. That was due to rest. So I feel like health is good enough for DeAndre to feel good about that as well. The 49ers without Brandon Ayuk, torn ACL, torn MCL. I'm sad. Deebo Samuel, I thought he wouldn't play, but now Kyle Shanahan said he hopes Deebo does. I feel like I would kind of hope he doesn't after pneumonia, but hey, that's just me, man. Deebo's a tough cookie, and it's weird when people question his toughness. George Kittle dealing with a foot sprain and didn't practice Wednesday. Neither did Juwan Jennings after he missed last week's game with a hip injury. They're playing Sunday night against the Cowboys. Good matchup. But which players here are you actually willing to trust with so many injuries and so many moving pieces on the Niners?
Trust is the key word here. That's where I struggle. So it's not like a hot take, but I don't think the Cowboys are great, but there's a chance that they play from ahead. Jordan Mason does not catch passes. I'm struggling with Mason, even though I'm really looking at those stud running backs, which is kind of the foundation on which this whole podcast is built. We've strayed from it for various reasons. This week we can hammer those high salaried running backs if we want to, but I'm not sure he's at the top of that list. I can't trust Deebo. Kittle's salary leaves no room for error. Jennings, he didn't practice. And I don't know if I can put like Ricky Pearsall in like a trust category. So I don't know that I trust anybody here.
So
even Pearsall at 52. What's that?
Let me reframe. Will you use Pearsall at 52?
Here and there, yeah.
Okay. I think that's kind of where I'm at too, because like a first round talent, he's a guy who did earn a lot of targets at Florida, especially his last year. Like last week, earned targets despite the fact he was just coming back after being shot. So like there's enough there, and like it's also a Kyle Shanahan system, which is pretty encouraging. So if Deebo and Jennings both play, then no. I'm kind of assuming Deebo won't still personally, because again, pneumonia. So if they both play, no. If one of them misses, I'll have some Pearsall. With Jennings, that'd be the guy I'd turn to if he can get a full practice by Friday. But missing practice Wednesday does concern me for sure. If he's limited on Friday, it seems like that could be like, okay, he's playing because it's an emergency situation. That would worry me quite a bit. So I really do want a full practice for him by Friday in order to get there. But Pearsall consideration, Jennings if he's full. If Deebo plays, I kind of want to judge it based on practice reports, I guess, because like when Ayuk didn't play last year, Deebo had like a 30% target share and went bananas in that one game. So I don't know. It's tough.
Yeah. I think it is practice report dependent other than Pearsall. I mean, his target per route rate was fine. His route rate, I think, was 70% last week. Like
and that was with Ayuk still earning 6 targets. So he was out there like a bit before the injury too.
Yeah. So there's room to grow, I guess. And I'm not going to do this for everyone, but Pearsall or DeAndre Hopkins.
You can do it for everyone. I think that's actually a good exercise. I would go Hopkins. Unless, I'd probably go Hopkins even if both Jennings and Deebo are out, actually.
I think I would go Pearsall if I'm assuming like Jennings, Deebo, there'll be game time decisions. Like if they can get in limited practices. They're still limited Friday. Not really holding out hope that they're going to be complete full goes. That could ruin me, but I think I'd have to go Pearsall if we're assuming that they're out, but it's close. And it's mostly to do with the fact that Pearsall, great red zone role, was on the field for 92% of the red zone snaps last week, has so much room to grow. I still feel like Hopkins would be somewhat limited in this offense.
Okay. I think that makes sense. Zay Flowers didn't practice Wednesday with an ankle injury, hurt himself early Monday, but played through it. Did look pretty banged up, though, and earned just 1 target in that game. Ravens get the Browns. Where do you settle in with the Ravens, given that Flowers is probably going to play, but also definitely not 100% right now?
Yeah, I mean, he's really the only pass catcher that I want. I know, it's fun to kind of get behind Rashad Bateman, but I don't think there's enough there. Just some big plays for him, kind of like Jameson Williams East in a sense. I'm not buying into the Mark Andrews double touchdown game. Just don't think that his role changed at all. He actually, if I'm not mistaken, ran fewer routes still than Isaiah Likely. I'll try to double check that, but
he was around 55% route rate for Andrews, which is
50%, and Likely was at 65%. So I mean, like Andrews has been 50% each of the last 2 weeks. Like I think it was just kind of a fluke there. The real, difference makers here are still Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry. Cleveland's defense is not anything amazing right now. They're 20th overall according to NumberFire. I think they're 11th in adjusted rush defense. So we're talking like we have salary, we have, we want ceiling. It's basically making sure that we don't just I didn't get to Lamar and he has a Lamar game. Those are the types of games that I want to identify.
Yeah.
And Henry at 92, there's still room for him to smash expectations. So no pass catchers really, but where are you with Henry and Lamar?
High. I like the over in this game. So I think they'll put up points. There is more shootout potential at Jameis, so we'll talk about in a second, than there was in the previous situation. So I think that does boost both of them because there's a shot this game goes circus, and I want circus in my lineups. So I like both. I don't think I need to get to the pass catchers. I think I can go Lamar by himself or Lamar with Henry. Both those are fine situations to me. But I don't feel that I like Flowers, but he is facing a secondary that has a lot of very fast players. And I don't tend to, this is a weird thing. I don't tend to use Zay as much against fast secondaries. And Bateman, I love Rashad Bateman as a football player, but doesn't tend to earn a ton of targets. He's been really good this year, but I think for me, it's Lamar, Henry. Want to use both, don't really want to use anybody else.
Yeah, and we'll move on, keep the injury section flowing, but basically come salary scroll, I'm going to ask you okay, obviously we're both high on Derrick Henry and Lamar, but should we prioritize Derrick Henry because we can? I think that's the type of question we need to ask this week. We can get back there to the salary scroll, but I'm just giving you a heads up. I'm going to press you on that because I don't want to walk away from this just saying we like Lamar a lot, like Henry, but who are the guys? We need to figure out who the guys are this week that we want to make sure we are overweight on.
Yeah, it's
not easy to answer, so that's why I want to give you some heads up.
I don't want to decide yet. Don't make me do it. I'm
going to ask. So
if I Jameson Williams expected to receive a 2-game suspension. I think he's appealing right now, which is why this is not official yet. That would take him out for Sunday's game against the Titans. We'll talk about the Lions in the trend section. Jaden Daniels expected to sit for Sunday's showdown against Caleb Williams and the Bears. Not official yet, but expected to. That put Marcus Mariota in line to start. I kind of hate that my guy is flourishing, Marcus Mariota, at the expense of my other guy, Jaden Daniels. But does Mariota plus a tough matchup push the Commanders out of play for you? Because as much as I love Marcus, it does for me.
Yeah, I mean, he looked good last week, but it was against the Panthers. I think that the right call here is to shift away. But shout out Noah Brown, was still very involved in the first half on the field a lot, but I just don't think this is the week for it.
I agree. Bucs be without Mike Evans and Chris Godwin this week for a divisional rematch with the Falcons. They've already faced each other once, but personnel is wildly different this time around. Any swipes for you at Jalen McMillan, Trey Palmer, and Cade Otton here with 15,000 targets available for the Buccaneers?
Yeah, a lot of targets available. Each week on Wednesdays, I do a wide receiver buy low model. It just basically looks at underlying workload. So your leverage, downfield, red zone, overall targets, that kind of stuff. Your matchup for the week and target volume projections according to NumberFire to kind of give you okay, this player's been getting good work. The matchup and game environment are good or bad. And, he's actually projected for more or fewer targets, basically. So, McMillan is someone stepping into a bigger role. This model helps with that. He's someone who popped this week is kind of what I'm getting at. Had 8 targets last week, 5 were at least 10 yards downfield, 2 red zone targets with an end zone target. A lot of room for his role to grow. He's been targeted on only 14% of his routes. Wide receiver average is 20%. but he can get downfield targets, and Mike Evans vacating downfield targets here. I'm not saying he's going to step in and just be Mike Evans, but I think McMillan's a good player. So at 49, we kind of got to do it and maybe we just save all of this for the scroll. Not sure. There's so many players to go over, but Jalen McMillan and Ricky Pearsall against a vet like DeAndre Hopkins. These are going to be the questions you have to kind of decide upon. But I also like Cade Otton as well. 10 targets. He's been involved. Higher on those two than Palmer, but I could see myself still using these players due to the salaries, which is different than, I guess I have to use them because the salaries, I had interest and the salaries are way lower than they should be. If McMillan was bumped up already to 61, I'd be no chance.
Yes.
But this really changes things. So I like Otton and McMillan the most.
Yeah, both Otton and McMillan earn D targets, which is very intriguing. I know that McMillan's yardage hasn't been there, but we talked about him actually in week 2, because in week 1, he had a couple of almost touchdowns. He scored once, and I think he could have had potentially 2 more. Then he got banged up. But I think the good thing with him is he was earning snaps and earning at least some targets before Godwin and Evans got hurt, whereas Trey Palmer was operating as the number 4 receiver. Shepard is not on the team, not using Shepard. I know he's got the college narrative with Baker. Don't care. Not doing that. Palmer's salary is $4,000. And I think he can play a bit, but prefer McMillan because he can earn downfield work. And his target per route rate is bad, but also he's competing with Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, because he was actually out there when they were out there, whereas Palmer wasn't always. So
there's room for that to grow for sure. And it should.
McMillan or Pearsall?
And I'm the one asking these questions, so I wasn't prepared for that.
Nice deflection.
I think I might lean McMillan.
I was McMillan until I thought more about it. Ricky Pearsall, first round pick, some more draft capital, better offensive system. Although I do like the system for the Bucks too. So, and not a divisional rematch for Niners as well. Sunday Night Hammer. I might have just talked myself into Pearsall over.
Can Dallas keep it close though?
I mean, with all the injuries on the Niners, I think they can. I might have bet the Niners before I realized that Debo had pneumonia. Oops. Dallas Goedert missed another practice Wednesday with a hamstring issue. He sat out last week, but the Eagles never threw, so it didn't matter. We'll talk about that game in the bookmaker section. Jameis Winston in line to start for the Browns this week. Deshaun Watson done for the year. Dorian Thompson-Robinson has a finger injury. How much does Jameis starting alter your view of David Njoku, Jerry Jeudy, and Cedric Tillman this week?
A lot. I'm not saying it's going to be efficient, but there should be downfield passing. There should be passing. Nick Chubb, another week back. His first half snap rate was good. He was involved early on, and then the game just was kind of not great from there. Not super into Chubb, and I know we're talking about the pass catchers here, but my point is there should be some movement within this offense. Jerry Jeudy already earning some downfield targets. Now Amari Cooper's gone. He ran a lot of routes, didn't see a ton of targets last week. Tillman is the one who saw way more targets. He had 12, but I'm not convinced that's necessarily as sticky. I think he's a good player, a pretty solid player, but I think where I'm actually most intrigued by a good amount is David Njoku. Mm-hmm. Njoku has a 30% target share the last 2 games, 44% of the red zone targets. I'm sure the number's small, but and 50% of the end zone targets. Prayer yards are in play here for sure with both Jeudy and Tillman, but Njoku, his role is actually quite good. So I'm much higher on this team than I would be if Jameis weren't starting. The question is, how do you value these 2 value receivers / Njoku against players, with Baker Mayfield and the 49ers system, like you said, or Patrick Mahomes. So that's the real question you have to ask yourself.
I really like Njoku. The one thing that pops in my brain is Kyle Hamilton. He's not putting him in the Fred Warner zone, but he's a really good football player just because they don't always deploy him in that way. That's my one concern with Njoku. I will still use him happily. I want to make that clear, but that's
for what it's worth. Ravens allowing the 6th highest catch rate over expectation to tight ends this year.
What's like the target per route rate? Can you check that or no?
Yeah, 18.5%, which is slightly above the tight end average.
Okay, so that definitely does help. Tillman is definitely ahead of Elijah Moore on the depth chart, which is good, and got a lot of deep targets last week. He and Jameson probably worked together quite a bit with the backup offense, and like that theory can sometimes come through. So I don't like him as much as McMillan or Pearsall, I don't think, which means I probably won't use him because I have to be picky. But like, I think the role change is legit. And again, being picky probably does push me off of Tillman, but I'd be highest of him compared to Judy, at least for this week. But Njoku, I agree, is the number one guy there.
Yeah, based on salary, I'd go Tillman over Judy. It's kind of wild that like in past weeks, I'd be clamoring like, all right, I got to use Jerry Judy, I guess.
Yeah.
Like kind of all I got. And now it's like I have too many options, so I'm not even like considering him that much.
I agree. Jonathan Taylor returned to practice on Wednesday for the Colts, coming off a high ankle injury. He has a history of foot and ankle injuries. He's missed 3 games so far. Colts get the Texans this week. Is Taylor on the map for you if he is full by Friday or no?
I don't like this offense much. They could trail. This is their divisional rematch as well. I'm not saying he's like not on the radar, but I'm gonna have a hard time gonna like click his name over some other running backs. Maybe I'm too low. I feel like I'm typically a little too low on Jonathan Taylor at this point, but do you have any thoughts there?
I agree with you. I think it's tough to go him over Breece Hall, 79, Kenneth Walker the third, 78. Like I'd rather go with those guys. So if I'm being picky, he doesn't really crack the list for me personally. I don't mind the Texan side of that game, but not super high on JT. Tyjae Spears returned to practice for the Titans Wednesday. That means he could be back as the Titans face the Lions. I'm not going to use Tony Pollard in a tough matchup, whether Spears plays or not. How about you?
Pollard still was like a 65-35 split leader early on in the season. I think he's probably played his way into maintaining that. It is more about the matchup and the overall game environment. So probably not. Don't know if I need to get there, but we will have to talk about the Lions at some point because they're fun. Mm-hmm. But I think Pollard's game stacks only, and even then I might go without because I don't know.
Back for me.
The Lions are just so hard to play anyway. There's so many of them, and their salaries are up.
Not always. Anymore. Salaries are coming down, and there's one less guy in the mix. That's a trend later on. Travis Etienne considered
his salary is down.
Laporta's down to 6,000, and Monroe's
my gosh, I'm not playing Sam Laporta.
I am. Kidding me? Travis Etienne considered day-to-day. I'll yell at you later. Don't worry. With a hamstring injury, Etienne got in 3 limited practices last week, so I assume he's going to play this week. We'll talk about this game in the bookmaker section. Derek Carr expected to sit another week due to his oblique injury. Spencer Rattler will start against the Chargers. Should at least have Chris Olave this time, as Olave did practice on Wednesday. Other side of this game, Ladd McConkey didn't practice Wednesday, but should play through his hip injury. Hayden Hurst missed a practice with a groin injury. Also, Will Dissly didn't practice. There are some guys I'm fine with in this game. J.K. Dobbins' salary is low. Great matchup for him. Will Dissly is what he is. But do we need to go there on the Chargers offense with so many great options elsewhere on this slate?
That's the thing. Do we need to? No. There are no buys this week. There's one Monday game, no London games. This is big of a main slate as we can get. That is helping. All the injuries are helping with the value. So I'm probably going to say no need for it. I'm not sure how many like simulations we need to run in reality for this game to be like the game of the week where you had to be there.
J.K. Dobbins or Chase Brown?
Dobbins.
Okay.
Aren't their salaries different though?
74. I thought the Dobbins was lower than that, I guess.
Yeah.
I do like Dobbins.
Like I like Dobbins. I could see him as a one-off. We'll have to kind of see where he is. But again, it's like, all right, J.K. Dobbins 74, you're kind of at his capacity. The Chargers have actually kind of reversed course with their pass rate over expectation since the bye. They're like top 8.
They actually did the game before the bye too. That might have been because their tackles, but they couldn't run the football because all their tackles were dead. But
You might want to, you might want to get Justin Herbert a couple extra dropbacks, because he's good.
Yeah.
But I think Dobbins is going to be the main name that we'll talk about more when we get back to the salary scroll.
I think that if I hadn't used Dobbins in every lineup on Monday, maybe I'd be higher on him, but I did. So, but I'm still interested. Bryce Young will start for the Panthers this week after Andy Dalton was involved in a car crash. We're not using Panthers. I'm not even going to ask you that. But does Bryce Young starting impact your view of the Broncos on the other side? We already got Robert in the comments over on YouTube asking about Bo Nix. So any interest for you in the Broncos side of things?
Yeah, that's a great shout, Robert. I had Bo Nix in my, again, I did the scroll, listed almost everyone. I'll be transparent, but Bo Nix was part of that. I don't know, Jim and I were talking a little bit before the show about Nix and just kind of in passing. The problem with me as well is I'm not convinced the ceiling is high enough. And this doesn't feel like the right week where you need to jam in a low upside quarterback when you have so many other options.
Yep.
I think there's appeal for a Knicks, Cortland Sutton stack to some capacity, but I don't know that this is it. Maybe on the 4 p.m. slate, like the smaller afternoon slate would be interesting. But on the full slate, I don't know if it's the right way to go. I think the real question here is Javonte Williams.
Yeah, Javonte Williams, I agree with you on Knicks. I think that he is a guy with a good floor because of the rushing. I need more passing to get to a ceiling, especially on this kind of slate. So that's why I'll pass there. As far as Javonte goes, though, salary is $6,000. I slacked you whatever day it was, Monday this week, saying, oh boy, Javonte's going to be like mega chalk this week. And I was like tilting about it already. But it does kind of make sense. It's the Panthers. They're at home. He has shown an ability to generate yardage upside, 13.6 FanDuel points 2 weeks ago, despite no touchdown there. So begrudgingly, he's a fine play. I don't foresee myself using him in my like highest dollar single entry lineup because I think that there are some players who will fly a bit more under the radar, but like he checks a lot of boxes. I begrudgingly am okay with Javonte Williams, even though I don't really want to be.
Yeah, the target totals, like he's involved as a pass catcher a good bit. I don't know how much they'll have to throw to the backs.
Yeah.
But Carolina basically just sort of bottom 5 in both receiving and rushing a lot of running backs in terms of efficiency and success rate. I think Javonte is good enough to take advantage of that. But again, we come back to who are the plays that we want to build around. Of course, the flip side of that is like, then which value plays do you feel comfortable enough where you think that they're going to get you what you need from them so that maybe it's like Jamar Chase. Maybe you're like, okay, I want Jamar Chase this week. Javonte's very close to that. I think I'm higher on him than you are, but I agree with you where we're probably still a little bit lower than if you ask someone else on the streets about Javonte this week, which, if you're grocery shopping, walking down the sidewalk, just say, hey, what do you think about Javonte this week? See what happens. Never know.
Recommended. I will second that request as well. Okay, let's transition now to our bookmaker section and talk about 3, I think, pretty fun games on tap for week number 8 and begin things with the game that I think personally is the most fun this week. That is the Eagles at the Bengals. Total in this game at FanDuel Sportsbook is 47.5, and the spread is 1.5. So high total, tight spread. And typically when we get a high total, tight spread in the show, I'll be like, yeah, I kind of like this game, but I bet the under. I did not bet the under in this game because I don't show value in the under. I've actually got this game as being pretty fair. Both these teams have fun, high usage players. Now their defense is one we need to fear. And I think we can get to the studs on both sides in this game. So what's your view of this game for stacking? Are you as high in it as I am?
This is kind of the type of game stack that I feel like we were built around. It's got those like top of the wide receiver 2 tier, names with T. Higgins and Devontae Smith, the types of players who have big ceilings and can be, if things are a little bit shaky, their salaries can be in like the low to mid 7,000s. But we also have, it's a 2 quarterback game for sure for me. And we also, in a week where we have value, we have 2 wide receivers who can straight up like break the slate open. Of course, Jamar
We might have 3. We get at least 2.5.
Sure,
I think
but I'm saying
T. Higgins is a half
sure.
minimum.
Yes, sure. I'm saying, like, look, we're gonna love T. I'm assuming T's in our head-to-head against one another, like
Probably.
So, but it's more. We actually have the salary to play a Jamar Chase, and potentially, if you want to go that route, AJ Brown together. I don't know what it would do, but it's possible. AJ Brown has had target shares of 34.5%, 37.5%, and 35.7% in his single games this year. We know he has yardage upside. We know he's got touchdown upside. I don't know. Is wind up here? I think it is a little bit elevated.
It's slow. It's 5 miles per hour.
Okay.
They're literally the only concern for this game is pace.
Yeah.
It checks every box.
Pace isn't enough to move off this. Pace is I
wholeheartedly agree with you.
Yeah. I think this is the game of the week. I think AJ Brown. I'm still gonna go. We'll talk Saquon, but AJ Brown. I don't know if people maybe quite understand how good because he's been hurt.
And they've also had scripts where they didn't have to pass, in that game last week.
I mean, AJ Brown deserves so much attention and adoration for what he is doing, and I still can't believe Tennessee just gave him away, basically.
Yeah, I love AJ Brown. I think that he is a phenomenal play in this spot as a slight road underdog. That's a good situation for a receiver where they'll actually have to throw a bit. I do want to give a shout out to Jamar Chase, and I know we've talked a lot about T. Higgins and the fact that he's actually out targeted Chase in the games they play together this year, which is why we love T. So this is an endorsement of T, but also Jamar Chase has done this on minimal targets, and we expect him to get more targets going forward. At least I do personally. Sure. That to me says he's a payout to be contrarian kind of guy. And I would give Jamar Chase strong consideration for my highest dollar single entry lineup for all those reasons. And I can get there this week because of the value at running back, value at receiver, value at tight end. So to me, he is a strong consideration for a high dollar single entry for me because the production has been there despite low targets. And I don't expect Jamar Chase to continue to get 6 or 7 targets per game.
This is exactly what I'm talking about, figuring out which of the studs you want to prioritize. And typically we could sit here and say, yeah, we like Jamar, we like Derrick Henry, we like Saquon, but when it comes down to it and you're building your lineups, who are the names you're trying to go out of your way to play? Jamar Chase, we've got T. It's so easy always to just say, I'll just play T Higgins and save the salary. I love T. He does have a pretty big ceiling. Jamar Chase has 200 yards, 3 touchdowns kind of ceiling. Correct. That stuff matters. And you make a good point with the fact that he's doing a lot on relatively minimal targets. It's still a 24% target share in games that they've shared. I am a little bit hesitant because the touchdown rate is unsustainably high.
Totally.
But he's still averaging over 100 scrimmage yards per game in this split. So there's nothing really bad against it. It's just, I wish he wasn't scoring as much.
Yeah.
So that he could score more. He can still score more. He can score in this game. But Jamar, so you like Jamar over AJ Brown? Because I'm not sure that I do.
I don't know, frankly.
Because Jamar's at home, I guess, but
I lean Jamar because the offense wants to be more pass heavy than the Eagles want to be,
sure.
But it's a lean. And really, to me, it's a 1A, 1B. And I think these are the top 2 stud priority receivers on the slate. I like Amon-Ra St. Brown. I think they're above him.
Yeah. I mean, again, if we're talking 170 yards and 2 touchdowns,
right.
I would put my money on these guys, not Amon-Ra, who we love and who got a nice downfield touchdown last week.
Yeah.
Which is, more than just a slot guy, I guess.
I was going to say, yeah. Okay, so we love Jamar Chase and AJ Brown. T Higgins, a one line of consideration for us. Dallas Goedert didn't practice on Wednesday. So where are we on Devontae Smith? Because I think that Smith is a guy I actively want to include in game stacks at $7,300 because did nothing last week. But last year when Goddard was out, I think his target share was 30%. So he can have big games. I prefer T to him. But like if I'm building iterations of this game, which I'm going to have a lot of game stacks this game, I'm putting Devontae Smith like firmly in that. Are you okay with that? Or are you a bit lower on him?
No, I'm with you. I think he's the wide receiver 4 in this game, but potentially like a top 8 level.
Sure.
I mean, I'm just ballparking it for the week.
Yeah.
Like he's in that good of a situation coming off of a down week. I think that's going to help with popularity. Has not had like massive yardage upside. And yeah, he was like super involved down the stretch without Dallas Goedert last year. So he's not game stacks only. I'm a little bit higher on him than that, but when it comes to this game in general, I'm going to have a lot of exposure to Devontae Smith.
I want to talk running backs in a second, but first, it's a 2 quarterback game. Are these the QB1 and QB2 on the slate for you? Because they're in the running for me at least.
It's possible. I don't ever want to ignore Josh Allen, but the salary is up. Even though we have salary, it's up to the point that if he gets you 28, you're like, okay, need a little bit more from 9,400 on the road. It's
also 14 mile per hour winds and some drizzle in the forecast in Seattle too, which impacts things for me. I like him a lot, but like that matters as well.
So then it comes down to, all right, we like the game a lot, but should we really be clicking Jalen Hurts over Lamar?
I mean, that's a fair question.
Do we need to find 200 and get to Lamar instead?
Lamar is undersalaried, so it's a fair question.
And that's not to say, okay, no Hurts then. It's just more higher on Lamar than I would be Hurts, but I'm going to stack this game more ways, so I might end up with more Hurts, which is, I know, kind of counter, but that's how it works out.
But Burrow's up there with you too?
Yeah.
Just undersalaried at 77.
We'll kind of see it with the salary scroll, but lower on CJ Stroud without Nico, who counts for like half their yards. Mahomes still has his issues. Baker's without his pass catchers. Goff, Kyler, like these guys are all down. I think Purdy's trending up.
Burrow, you mean?
What did I say?
Purdy.
Oh yeah, because he was the name that I skipped over.
This is the face that Joe Burrow is making at you for.
Yes. Sorry, Joe.
I like Purdy. This is not a Purdy slander thing, but.
Well, I was gonna say Purdy, and then I think I made my point, and then they couldn't be much different quarterbacks to me. I think Joe Burrow is phenomenal. But
I give you one lineup, and for some reason, I'm not allowing you to game stack. Do you go Saquon Barkley, Jamar Chase, or AJ Brown in that lineup?
Wait, is it? I'm picking one of them for sure. Which one is it?
Pick one of them. Yep.
Okay.
And only one.
I think it has to be Saquon.
I lean towards agreeing with you. I think you can fit in Saquon with Jamar Chase based on salaries for this week, and I'd like to do so. But like Saquon's role is nuts. Like his role, but also his efficiency so far this year, 126.8 yards in scrimmage per game, despite the fact one of those games is the one where they didn't have Lane Johnson, didn't have any of the receivers against the Buccaneers, and he basically like tapped out early because like nothing was happening in that game. He's had 28 plus FanDuel points in 3 separate games. And the path here is obvious. Even with Jalen Hurts taking away tush pushes, like taking touchdowns from him, like he can score from anywhere. So I lean towards Saquon 1, and I feel okay with that. But like, I think it's an endorsement of those 2 guys that I'm even considering it. But like Saquon's still number 1 for me.
I think he has to be. I mean, it's fun to build around receivers, but at the core, it's still a half PPR site. He's got such high odds to get 100 rushing yards. Yeah. He's got like an outside chance at 100 receiving yards if this game is really back and forth. And yes, the red zone role is really the only flaw where it's not as perfect as it could be. But we're talking mega yardage upside against the defense that should give up a lot of yards too. So
let me give you the pitch for Chase Brown,
Good.
$6,600. And the reason I like him is I don't think people are going to use him this week because his role's kind of flown under the radar. How good it's been recently. He's outsnapped Zach Moss in consecutive games. The Cleveland game, they didn't run a lot of plays because they had a kickoff return for a touchdown. That kind of muted things for them there. But like 15 carries, 2 targets there. So not amazing usage, but still pretty good usage. And specifically the red zone role for Chase Brown is very good. If you look at the past 4 games where he wasn't even the lead back for 2 of those, he has a 47% snap rate overall, but up to 63% in the red zone. He has played all 7 red zone snaps the past 2 games. So really good red zone role to get you 2 or 3 targets per game. And I think that we're going to see a pretty big rushing game out of him in the not so distant future. He's also, I would assume, low roster rate and low salaried access to a great game. I think objectively, people like DeAndre Swift, Javonte Williams are better plays than Chase Brown. But I think that because this game is as good as it is, I still want to weasel him into my lineups. Is that enough to sell you on Chase Brown, or do you need more?
It's fine for game stacks, but we're kind of gifted anything we can do here. And I don't want to have to sell myself on, if things break this way, Chase Brown could, like, I trust me, I know the role is better than people probably realize. There is room for him to pay off at his salary. I think he's a good football player. We like this game a lot. But at the end of the day, I don't see myself going out of my way to play Chase Brown. It's going to be more in those lineup. Like I feel like I'm going to have a lot of Chase Brown tied to AJ Brown because I'm going to want to stack that game and save some salary in some way. And he's really the only salary saver in this game, unless I'm overlooking someone, but I don't think that I am.
You're not. I agree with you there. Okay. So we're very high in that game, and I'm very excited to watch that game, very excited to stack the game. It's going to be a banger for Sunday. Let's talk now about the second game in the bookmakers section. That is the Bills at the Seahawks right now at FanDuel Sportsbook. Bills favored by 3. Total in this game is 47.5. And I think this is another spot where neither defense is very good. Seahawks will likely be without DK Metcalf due to a knee injury. He might play because he's like kind of like Debo, like DK Metcalf is a cyborg and he plays through everything, which is amazing. So he might play somehow, but Seahawks missing a key explosive piece, kind of their only like downfield threat. That's a ding for me. And again, there is some wind here and I need to be picky for this week. So does the Metcalf injury bother you at all when you're stacking this one? And how are you viewing it if we assume that Metcalf is out for this one?
This is such a great example of what we talk about. When you take a great player off the field with a high target share, yeah, there's more opportunity, but efficiency is going to go down. DK Metcalf is an efficiency differentiator. Mm-hmm. And like, we used to be Tyler Lockett guys. At least I was. I don't remember if you were ever like,
back in the day, for sure.
He does still earn some downfield work, but there's not much beyond that for him. So, like, I'm not going to use Tyler Lockett. They should get Jackson Smith and Jigba like 15 targets, but I don't trust that they will. Mm-hmm. And that's a problem. They might just lean on Kenneth Walker, which they would be able to do. And totally. Week after week, Kenneth Walker stands out as someone whose role is really good. He's proving that he is basically game script agnostic, where he's going to catch passes if they're trailing. He's going to run the ball if they're ahead. So I think this is like, I'm still high enough on this offense to be there with Walker. I know you're going to be there too. I think the real question is like, is there enough for like JSN at 64 in most weeks? Like, yeah, probably. But in this week, I don't know.
Yeah, that's kind of my hang up too. I agree with you on Walker, where like he's a very good play. And the one viable piece here, because like they could lean on him because he's capable of upside and he's the only like explosive player in their offense right now. For Jackson Smith and Jigba, like if I were to build the case for him, he currently has a 20% target share with 23% of the deep work and 23% in the red zone, despite playing alongside DK Metcalf for almost all those snaps. Like in theory, he should have upside. And he's at least had a game where he's had upside this year, but like, I don't know, at what point do I need to see Like at some point I got to see it. I haven't seen it
Yeah.
yet as far as like juice. It's a slate where I have to be picky. There are 14-mile-per-hour winds. There's a chance that this offense gets downgraded. So I think I'm kind of on board with you where it's like, I'm just really meh on him. I'm not using Lockett either, like you said. So like, I don't know, man. It's kind of underwhelming outside of Walker on the Seahawks side, even if Metcalf can't go. I hope Metcalf does play, so I don't have to worry about it, frankly.
Yeah. This is not going to be a totally accurate portrayal of how I feel about JSN, but maybe this week, like, it kind of feels like maybe a Wan'Dale Robinson game where he gets like 12 targets, but has like 68 yards and no touchdowns, and it doesn't really matter. Like if wins are up and he gets some more like shorter passes, I don't know. It just doesn't feel like a breakout's imminent. And I want it to be there, but one of the things that's most important is not playing guys based on what you hope is going to happen and making sure you're really reacting to what it is happening. And for that reason, Kenneth Walker is the guy here.
Yep.
I'm not sure I'll play any other Seahawks.
I might not either. And I think that Walker does stand out even compared to his tier across the entire slate too. Let's talk about the Bills side of things. Let's begin things with Josh Allen. $9,400 is the salary. Like, I think he's great because he's now going to be more efficient as a passer with Amari Cooper there. He's going to run. He gets the tush pushes, but doesn't get the same PR for it as the Eagles do, which means his anytime touchdown odds his anytime touchdown odds tend to be a bit lower than they should be, I think, at least. It's just the salary it's kind of hang up. Like, it's like, okay, do I see the Seahawks pushing back? Do I see him? I mean, like, there is wind, there is rain here. So it's like, if it were a better slate, I would just say, I don't care. I'm going to use Josh Allen. But I think that those factors are enough to push him down to QB4 for me, below Lamar, below Hurts, below Burrow. Is that kind of a fair representation of how you feel about Allen?
Yeah, it comes back to, okay, we've got some salary to play with. You can play Josh Allen if you want without really thinking about it too hard. But is it like, what's the bigger gap? Josh Allen versus Lamar / Hurts, or like a Saquon, or like a Jamar Chase over, I don't know,
Amon-Ra?
Well, I guess, but that's only 300 like in difference. So I was going more for like stuff, not to pick on Stephon Diggs here, but like his salary is just immense right now.
It's $2,000 too high.
So like, I think Josh Allen gets dinged a bit.
Yeah.
I still think if you're building enough lineups,
you
should get to Josh Allen.
Yeah.
But I'm with you where right now I think he's QB4.
Yep. And QB4 is still good because it's a good slate. So this is not a negative, but like, it's enough. Some of the Bills pass catchers, let's not bury the lead. Dalton Kincaid's salary is $4,000. So there's that. Amari Cooper, $7,100. I think for me, it would really be about Cooper or Kincaid within this offense.
Yes.
Cooper, I wish the salary were not 71. That was kind of a bummer to see that number.
Yeah.
Where are you at on the pass catchers for the Bills?
Yeah, I mean, just because you have Cooper pulled up, we'll start there. Such a good target per route rate, 45%, just 11 routes. It's another week. I don't know enough about. Those are some juicy matchups there.
Yeah.
I don't know enough about like the Bills implementation and how they'll get him up to speed. And again, I know like the viral moment is he was still asking about a play. He's got another week to get acclimated, but the main issue here just goes back to like the sheer number of plays we have. And if you look at that 7,000 range, like, is it Amari Cooper or is it Devontae Smith or like T Higgins? And I mean, I don't know if it's really even a question at this point.
Yeah.
So like,
it's T.
That's the main thing here.
Mm-hmm.
I see the case for it. I assume he's still going to manage. He could see 8-9 targets in this game. Would not surprise me. But we come back to that question of like, will it be competitive enough, etc. So we'll be able to rank Cooper better as we do the scroll.
He'll be an Allen stack me, but I don't see a whole lot beyond that.
That's kind of where I am.
Okay. Kincaid, $4,000. I believe limited in practice on Wednesday. Collarbone injury. Not great. Someone who's broken his collarbone previously. Anyway, salary is $4,000. Like, he's gonna be 25, 30% rostered. So
Probably.
I think there's an appeal to spend it to be contrarian, but like for a cash game, I think I just use him and figure out the rest personally.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of tight ends, but it's mostly like, oh, I could consider this tight end, consider that tight end. I think Kincaid is, for your cash games, just kind of go there and don't overthink it. Unless he's like limited all week, then maybe you kind of reconsider it. But talk about Josh Allen's salary. If you just said like Kincaid was 6,000, Josh Allen was 74, like you'd play that like all day. And I'm a big proponent of stacking in cash games, and maybe we get to a point where I'm like, you know what, I can play Josh Allen with Kincaid and Kenneth Walker in like a main stack. That's appealing to me. So
I agree. I would say for my highest dollar single entry lineup, though, probably not going to use Kincaid. Just I don't need to.
And it would benefit you if he gets you another like 6.7 or 8 points, and you're not going to miss out.
Fair expectation for him. So
sure, but there are some tight ends who have 17-point upside. Not. I'll take a closer look, but I don't know if anyone's getting like 20.
Any James Cook for you?
You're much more of a James Cook guy than I am at this point, which is a little weird because I was so high on his touchdown regression coming into this year, and he's paid that off. But I still don't love a guy who plays like a minimal snap rate. Like, no, it's not minimal. It's like a slight majority, but it's clear this team doesn't want to give him like an 85% snap rate consistently if they don't have to.
Yeah,
that does lower me a little bit. I know the results are like not bad by any means, but I think the salary is a little too high for me.
Salary is too high. He would be like a pay it to be contrarian kind of option. Because it's kind of like, I view him similar to how I view Aaron Jones last week. Like, if we had known Aaron Jones would be healthy, it'd be like, okay, not really into it, a little bit high salary, but like has a path to a ceiling. I think that Cook does have that because of the yardage. But I might not need to get there on this slate. So I like it, but don't love it. And I think I kind of need to love it on this slate. So I might have a FOMO share just because this game is good, but that's kind of where I settle in with that. Let's finish up with our last game of the bookmaker section. That is the Packers at the Jaguars right now at FanDuel Sportsbook. Packers favored by 4.5. Total in this game is 49.5, and that's actually the highest total on the slate. All right. Jags been shredded by even bad quarterbacks, and Jordan Love is good. Are you as high in this game as the bookmakers are?
This is like a prototypical, sure, the total's high, but who am I going to regret not using kind of game?
Yeah.
Market shares here are pretty dispersed. Running back situations are good, not great. It also depends on like where we get with ETN, and if he's like, even if he's good to go, I'm not playing him. If he's out, Tank becomes, pretty interesting, of course, but it doesn't.
But they jacked his salary up to 71. Like, even he's not like amazing relative to salary.
Well, injected in this game, I think.
Sure.
But this might be a game where, it goes over, but nobody's really, I don't know. I mean, market shares just aren't really there. I think that in a weird way, I really like the tight ends, especially Evan Ingram. His target shares are great whenever he's active.
I think Ingram is the best play in this game.
He's got a 25.7% target share, and Brian Thomas is next in that split with Ingram at 20%. Like, Christian Kirk and Gabe Davis are at about 18%. Like, it's a lot of different options with not the highest ceilings necessarily. I do think Ingram has that ceiling to a degree, volume based, but I don't know which of the, like, name a player in this game you are considering for your main best lineup, but I don't think there is one.
Not a soul,
right?
Frankly, I think that like part of that is because I talked about like, hey, we've actually got a game on this slate where I didn't take the under. I took the under here, so this one does not qualify for that. I've got it at 46.4, frankly. partly because I'm higher than consensus on the Packers defense, I think.
Yeah.
So that's why I think that, frankly, the biggest thing for me in this game is Engram at tight end as a spend up to be contrarian thing with Schultz or with Kincaid being there. Too many Daltons, and then mini stacking him with Romeo Dobbs, because I've come around. I've seen the light, Brandon. I think that Dobbs is actually an okay play at $6,100 this week. His yards per route run is up to 1.8 this year after 1.4 last year. So getting yardage, but also like if you look at the games where Christian Watson's been active, Dobbs' target share is 20%, which is tops in this team, getting deep work, getting red zone work. So I've come around on him. He's not a priority play at 61, not a cash game play. He's kind of like, okay, I've got Ingram in there. I've got 61. I'll put Dobbs in there as like a mini stack situation. And I think that that's frankly as far as I get in this one.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I guess.
Like, I would use Love. Sorry, we're 89, but like, why is it 89? He doesn't run. Like, just too high.
I like Jordan Love. I think I wouldn't be surprised if he's like a top 3 QB on the slate,
Sure.
but doesn't have a good stack candidate. And
Yeah.
I don't know if this is a week where you want to go in with like a naked quarterback play.
I think that the best way to play him is naked. But 89 is really high for a guy who doesn't run. He's higher salary than Lamar. Like, that's kind of as simple as I want to make it. He's higher salary than Lamar and Hurts. Like, I think it's that simple for me. He's a phenomenal player who can definitely score 4 touchdowns, but he also need 4 touchdowns for him to burn you at 89. And that's fine by me.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, let's move now to our trend section for this week. And let's begin things by talking about, I think, the most fun storyline of this week. Well, fun for DFS. I don't know. Real world makes you kind of squeamish. But Tua Tagovailoa back here for the Dolphins this week. And every Dolphin is undersalaried. So talk me through the Dolphins with Tua Tagovailoa and how to handle them in DFS.
Yeah, Tyreek hit us with the "we're back, baby," which it's kind of between like a Frank Costanza and a Bender situation from Futurama.
Okay, I was going to ask. Thank you.
Yeah, don't worry, I clarified. But boy, it's a good time to a degree with the Dolphins. I hope Tua never gets sacked again and doesn't run the ball ever again. But this is good news for now, and it seems like this is what he wants to do. So good on him. It seems like he's got his priorities where he wants them to be. But the real thing for us here is the real thing for us here is I hope Tua is okay. But for our purposes with this podcast, we're going to get a lot more out of the Dolphins. And since week 3, the Dolphins have been dead last in pass rate over expectation at minus 14%. That's about 3.5 points lower than any other team in the NFL in that split. Their EPA per play was also last in the league. But in weeks 1 and 2, with Tua playing the majority of those games, their pass rate over expectation was still low. But their raw pass rate was actually above league average. They're like weirdly a slow team. They're maybe not always as pass heavy as you want. But the thing is with them, whenever they do throw the ball, they kind of funnel it to their 2 best players. And so it kind of takes any of those concerns out of things for me. Now, Tua, like his numbers this year in a small sample, not great, but he had 3 interceptions against the Bills. That kind of skews things. And he went for 338 yards on 37 attempts with with 1 touchdown and no interceptions in week 1 against the Jaguars team that is not super daunting. And this week they're facing the Cardinals, who are 30th against the pass, according to NumberFire's adjusted metrics. And in 2 games with Tua this year, Tyreek Hill has a 25% target share, 9 targets per game. He's averaging 77 yards per game in that split with an ADOT of 11.6. And 4 downfield targets for me, 10 plus yards downfield per game, 43% air yard share. And Jalen Waddle, 12% target share for 4.5 per game, 2.5 downfield, which is still nice. Small sample here, but still 75 yards per game. Now, if you look at last year in games with all 3 of these players active, Hill's at a 30% target share, over 10 targets per game, 110 yards per game. Waddle at a 21% target share for, it was not the best year for him. They clearly we're trying to get Tyreek Hill some
hurt
records
all
there
year too. He's hurt this year too. He was hurt all year last year.
Yeah, he's always kind of hurt, which is what I was gonna button things up with, which is why his salary is low. And we're gonna talk about salary scroll, low salary receivers. We'll have to talk Jalen Waddle, but also kind of talk Tyreek Hill in that 7,000 range too, because it's probably not gonna stick. Probably not gonna stick. So again, bottom 3 adjusted pass defense at home this week. Win could be up, but Tua has averaged 256 yards per game in 14 games with double-digit wins the last 3 seasons, but is actually 280 in a smaller 3-game sample, but against teams that are 20th or worse in adjusted pass defense. A lot of his windier games have come against good defenses, so not that concerned. And yeah, he does heave it, but they can also get a lot of yards after the catch with some more intermediate targets here too. Tua's salary is $7,000. I don't know that I'll get there because he's not going to run. At least hopefully he does not run. But Tyreek Hill at 76, Devon Achane 68, and Jalen Waddle at 59 is kind of phenomenal for these players. Achane last week, we had Mostert. He had a 57% snap rate. Mostert was at 33%. It was kind of similar to what we saw in week 1.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not if we're going to just simplify things and say okay, we get a 65-35 split with pass catching and stuff in a game environment that we like. I think Achane over Chase Brown is I know, but I think that's my thing with Chase Brown is I can play Achane instead. So I'm going to get there. Haven't really seen it from Achane since Tua's been out. This should help a ton. Look, we're going to like those 3 names. I think Jonnu Smith's also kind of fun, but I think we have enough tight ends where I'm not going to get there. I guess the main question is any concerns here? Okay.
Roster rate.
Yeah.
That's it.
But it's such a big slate. It's such a big slate though that should help.
And we've known Tua's coming back for a week already. So that's that. But I'm going to use them despite the high roster rate because they're just objectively undersalaried. And I don't mind a high roster rate if a player's undersalaried. Achane will be in my main single entry lineup. He's the first person I put in, frankly. I put in Achane, I put in my Eagles Bengals stack, and I figure out the rest from there. He's just so undersalaried at 68. That full game with Tua, 10 carries, 7 targets. He had 100 yards from scrimmage. He had a 50% red zone share. Good snap. Mostert got hurt early in that game. With Mostert being back last week and still not playing a high snap rate, I think that's kind of just what we should expect going forward. So, Achane is the guy. I rank him first. I rank Tyreek number 2. I rank Waddle number 3. I'm very much unopposed to having Achane and Tyreek in the same lineup. I don't care. That's totally fine by me because they're both so undersalaried. And I think that both those guys are priorities on the slate. If you ask me T versus Tyreek Hill, I say please let me use both. Please let me use both. I probably lean towards Tyreek, but please let me use both. That's what I say.
I think this is a situation where, T. Higgins is leading in targets in games he's played over Jamar Chase. He's really good. But
it's bleeping Tyreek Hill.
This is one of the, it's so easy for me. Maybe I'm the only one who this happens to. Probably not, but it's bring backs that the Eagles Bengals game should be a lot of fun. I'm kind of low on the Cardinals right now, but I think you play Tyreek Hill in that instance. I don't think it's really a conversation. It's one of those. It's 130. It's why did I play T. Higgins over
12-20? 12-20. I'm asking that question. Sorry, it's Central God's time. You said the same time, just a different time zone. I think if I had to lay out an average of Dolphins per lineup across the entirety of my lineups this week, it's 1.5. I'll have 1.5 Dolphins per lineup despite having 0 Tua. I think that's maybe 1.7. I think that's kind of where I'm at is I'll have at least 1 in almost every lineup and 2 in a good number of them as well.
Does that mean you would play Tyreek and Waddle together? Or is this mostly
not totally opposed? No, I think that's fine.
Because we're talking under salary. All 3 of these guys are for sure. But what I'm getting at is we at salary, Achane probably. I don't want to say he's RB1. I think there are still like
at salary, he is the RB1 for me. Yes,
there's still a little bit of a workload concern that I
Mhm.
wouldn't want to put someone with who's the 1A. I want like the 1 to be my RB1, like someone who's like a Kenneth Walker is like he's the 1. But Tyreek Hill, I think, would have to be the wide receiver 1 at salary.
Yep.
Where's Waddle? Because he could get lost, but he could also kind of get in that like, yeah, I could play Jamar, but I can play T. Higgins. I could play
it's the
AJ
same
Brown, but I'm
question
gonna
as
play
like
Devontae.
the Hopkins thing, where it's like, can you give me 85 yards or two touchdowns? And like, yeah, you can do both. So yes, firm play. I'm gonna use Achane and Hill over him, but like you asked, Tyreek and Waddle in the same lineup, sure, no objections. I think that's totally fine. Just because they're gonna get 60, 55% of the team's targets this week.
I was gonna say like 58, but
yeah, I think that works. Okay, let's move to my first or lone trend here and talk about Jameson Williams, likely suspended for this week. Dan Campbell said they are bracing for him not to play. I've lamented a bunch this year. The Lions spread things out too much. Caps the upside of most of their players. But part of that was because Jameson Williams was getting work, and now he's likely out for 2 weeks due to a suspension. So I wanted to dig in and see if that could alter how we view their skill guys. We do have a decent sample on the Lions without Williams. That came last year where he was also suspended the first 4 games. Get it together, JMO. And in those games, things were more concentrated because Amon-Ra St. Brown, he didn't have a great target share in those games. 26%, 30% of the deep work, and 40% in the red zone. That's a good share, but it's not like amazing. The bigger thing is Sam Laporta, 21.8% target share in those 4 games, 20% red zone share, 5% deep. Considering that Laporta this year is at a below 10% target share, I think this is a massive bump, and I don't think anybody will use him because there are a lot of good tight ends. Salary $6,000. It's Laporta week, baby. If we look at the proxy for Khalif Raymond and Tim Patrick, or maybe Allen Robinson, I guess, last year that was Josh Reynolds, 15% target share, but 40% deep. I think like best case scenario for Raymond and Patrick is that they see like 5 targets, and I don't really care about that. So not going there, but I think for me, the big takeaway is with Jameson Williams suspended, it's a good week to be ahead of things and use Sam Laporta before people realize how much of an impact Williams had in that offense. So Brandon, can I sell you on Sam Laporta? Salary is $6,000 because we're taking out a guy who is getting a good number of targets from this offense.
Probably not. He scored so much last year on not a ton of yardage, and that made him the tight end 1 in a really bad year for tight ends. He does have multi-touchdown upside.
Mm-hmm.
I understand that. I just still think the salary is high enough. Like, yeah, it's high enough where people aren't going to play him.
Mm-hmm.
But I think this is a little bit of wishful thinking.
Nope. We already saw it once.
Look,
it's not wishful thinking. We've seen it. It's not wishful thinking.
Jameson Williams wasn't earning like...
He had a 17% target share. Like if you look at the whole season, he was at 17%.
I mean, come on. Like
I'm telling you.
If Sam Laporta can't earn any targets because the wide receiver 2 is a 17% target share, that's
he earned 21.8% target share last year. Like without Williams.
This is a whole different year. You had
it's the same quarterback. It is the same offensive system. It is most of the same skill players. Like it's the same situation.
So where was Laporta? Where was Laporta last year with Jameson then?
I don't know. Well, Jameson didn't earn targets last year, so it didn't really matter. It's not that in that situation, it's not the same. The situation's the same now as it was those first 4 games with no JMO, and he had a 22% target share at that time. I'm considering Laporta for like my lone, like my main single entry lineup. Now for cash games, I'm just gonna go Kincaid there. But like for single entry, absolutely a consideration for me because I don't think people are going to use him because they're not going to realize the impact JMO had on his target share.
I'm not making him out to be like the worst play. I'm not convinced that he is a substantially great play just because Jameson is out.
I'm not saying he's a great play. I'm saying that he's like a play
you
that
said,
I'm going to...
You said you were considering using
I am considering him. Doesn't mean he's a great play. I think that he's a differentiation piece on a slate where I could be chalky by using too many Dolphins, and I can be different without being dumb. And I think that's the case I get with Laporta this week, given a massive implied total, given he's tied to future MVP Jared Goff. Let's slip that one in there. Should be Lamar, but whatever.
So what's your target share expectation here? Like, is it
17 to 18%? 17 to 18% in one of the most efficient offenses in football from MVP quarterback Jared Goff. I'll take it.
Sell me. Well, you don't have to sell me. I know. I understand your case.
There is an outcome where Sam Laporta is a tight end one this week at $6,000.
Yeah, I understand that. Like, that's not lost on me.
Then use him. He has a ceiling.
Evan Engram or Sam Laporta?
Laporta if it's a tournament. Engram in cash games.
David Njoku or Sam Laporta?
Probably Njoku. But like Njoku in cash games, Laporta consideration in tournaments.
Okay. So like you're yelling at me because Sam Laporta is like probably your tight end 3 at best, and at least probably tight end 4 with Kincaid where he is.
I'm saying I want to actively use him and have exposure to him because I think that people will not use him and not realize the impact of this potential suspension.
That's fair to call out. I'm not convinced that this leads to, like, you can have three pass catchers see targets. Why is it taking Jameson Williams, who's sure target share is like fine, but there are games where he just didn't really earn a lot of targets? Why can't they throw the ball to Sam Laporta?
I don't know. It's kind of like Jamar Chase. Sam Laporta is Jamar Chase. Do you expect his target share to be 9% going forward? I don't, personally.
I don't.
Would I use Laporta if JMO were in there? No, I wouldn't, because he'd be over salary. But he's not over salary now because JMO's not in there.
Like, scale back the Tim Patrick targets and give it to Sam Laporta if he's that good. Like, there's a lot of guys who get like 8% target shares in this offense.
Yeah.
Just throw it to Laporta instead.
They will this week.
Like, it doesn't convince me that this team is like, well, now that Jameson's out, we're going to go to Laporta, 17% of the time.
I think they might.
They could already do that.
They did it 21% last year.
All right.
Same offense coordinator, same quarterback, same skill players around it for the most part. I think it happens. You can miss out. That's okay. I don't need to win you money too. That's fine.
The funny part about all this, which isn't actually that funny, is if he has a good game, you can victory lap. But in reality, it's kind of like I'm planting my flag in the tight end 4 in case he's the guy.
Yeah, but I'm still going to use him, so I still benefit regardless.
I'm good. Like, I'm not against using him. I'm just It sounds
like you are.
You're selling me on the optimism that he will see what he saw last year. And to me, it's just like, all right.
Because I have a journalism degree, fair and honest, Deacon to the Legend did say on YouTube that he's siding with you. No Sam Laporta for him.
Thank you, Deacon to the Legend. Yes.
If I didn't have a journalism degree, I would not share this. But hey, here we go. We got to
go to journalism for that. Yeah.
We got to be objective. Got to be objective, fair and objective. More Laporta for me. That's fine.
I'll put a bow on this. This is a full week of games.
Mm-hmm.
We want to thin out the player pool.
Mm-hmm.
I'm more likely to thin out a guy who can't earn targets than I am.
Can't or hasn't in a couple games this year.
How long?
22% target share last year without JMO.
Evan Engram has a 27% target share in his active games this year. Why don't I just use that instead?
Probably because Evan Engram sucks and Sam Laporta doesn't. He doesn't suck. That was rude. I'm sorry, Evan. I know you listen.
We're not gonna like agree. And as always with these, we're not that far off.
Yeah.
It's just the way that we're conveying it. I understand the case for Laporta. I'm more pessimistic that I feel like if I sold you on Laporta, he's like 9% target share, but he's gonna see more work. You'd be like, he can't earn targets
Yeah,
right
because
now.
a guy who is earning targets above him in the offense is out.
Oh my god,
It's not that hard. Come on.
Jahmyr Gibbs is just gonna see more work, honestly.
I won't get there, but I'd be fine with that. I'm in Dynasty at least. We'll go with that. Weather for this week. There are 14 mile per hour winds and rain possible in Seattle for the Bills and Seahawks. It's a slight downgrade, not a massive thing. I still have that total at 47.3, so not a huge downgrade for me after accounting for the wind. And then 13 mile per hour winds in Miami for the Dolphins and Cardinals. That is like the one issue that I have with this game, that and roster rates, but another reason just to use Devon Achane as opposed to the receivers. I still like the receivers too, but Achane is pretty sick and will happily be there. Let's go now position by position to break down our top plays for this week over on FanDuel.com. Brandon, let's begin things at quarterback. I think we've kind of talked through that position for the most part, where we're settling on Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts, and Joe Burrow. Are those the four for you? Anyone else you're considering? And how do you rank those four after having discussed everything?
Yeah, I think that I like to kind of have no more than 4 quarterbacks. I just feel like if you're doing more than 4, again, maybe you play like 250 lineups, sure. But if you're playing like a more reasonable amount of lineups and you just have one share of all these different quarterbacks, it just lowers the chance that you're going to kind of get everything else right unless you are literally swapping out your stack. So I want to keep it to 4 generally. It's going to be hard to keep it to cut it to 3 because I don't want to ignore Josh Allen, especially with a chance to have Dalton Kincaid with him at 4,000. In case Kincaid scores twice, that's appealing. As far as ranking goes, this is the whole point of what I laid out earlier. We have to do this. We can't just walk away saying, "Hey, these are our top 4 QBs." Not everyone's going to play even 4 lineups. They're going to play 1 or 2.
Correct.
Or I'm going to play 8, but I don't want to play 2 of each. I need to figure this out. I kind of feel like Lamar has to be QB1.
Okay.
Like, why would he not be?
I mean, it's a good question.
Like,
I don't have a good answer for you, frankly.
So, yeah, we're lower on the bring back side of things, but the rushing is there. He hasn't actually scored a rushing touchdown in 3 games. Yeah, he's coming off the 5 touchdowns on the 22. That's like a classic Russell Wilson line there, like 22 attempts for 280 and 5 touchdowns. But if they play from ahead, it's because Lamar is so involved doing stuff. I'm not guaranteeing that like Lamar ends up as the QB1, but process-wise leading in, there's enough with Hurts where it's like, yeah, I like him. Does he have 35 in him right now? Maybe, probably, sure, if this game goes off. We know Lamar does.
Yeah.
So, and look, I like Joe Burrow a lot, but we get some rushing quarterbacks who are throwing the ball efficiently. It's hard to go Burrow over Lamar. So I think right now I'm going Lamar.
Okay.
Hurts, Burrow, Allen.
Okay.
Just because Allen's salary's up there.
I think you talked me into Lamar. And I think the other reason why he's appealing is that I can still get a lot of exposure to the Eagles and Bengals game via the pass catchers because Lamar doesn't suck up 2 spots for stacking because I can just play him with Henry or play him by himself and still get to that game. So I can just play Lamar Jackson and then game stack Eagles, Bengals around him. So maybe I'm leaning towards having him QB1 right now as a result of that, but I do still consider Burrow to be like in that discussion at least.
Okay.
So Burrow's 2 for me.
Okay.
And part of the reason is like, if you gave me Burrow last year without 300-yard bonus, I could say, okay, go Hurts. But 300-yard bonus is in play now. We know he's going to sling it. So I think that to me is enough to make Burrow QB2 by a hair behind Lamar. I wouldn't be shocked if I wound up having more Burrow, but like, I think I should have more Lamar.
So who is it then? Lamar slightly above Burrow, and then
slightly
Hurts
above
Allen?
Hurts. Yeah.
Okay.
Like they're all like very small steps down from each other, I think.
Yeah, I know when we talked about Jordan Love, I said I wouldn't really want to play a naked quarterback on this slate, but Lamar's different.
He runs.
So
yeah.
I don't know. It's just one of those. Again, we're talking to Tyreek. Like, well, why didn't I do this?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you can really make a case for regretting playing Lamar, other than it's a divisional road matchup. But
yeah,
that's kind of all you have, and maybe the fact that it's a hard stack. But you want to talk about 300-yard bonuses? He's got 348, 323, and 281 in his last 3 games. So
bananas on less than 30 attempts in 2 of those.
yeah.
So yeah, you're selling me on him being QB1 and then game stacking Bengals, Eagles around him.
Yeah,
I like that quite a bit.
And I just I see the case for like a Bo Nix most weeks, but not this week. I think there's too many guys, and there's enough value to get to Lamar, and Burrow and Hurts. So I don't think you need to do that.
So those are our 3 loves then, with Allen being a strong like.
Yes.
Okay, I agree with that. Running back, I'm going to start things off here with this stud range because we can get there this week.
Mm-hmm.
I give you one lineup, and you can use Derrick Henry, Saquon Barkley, or Joe Mixon. Who are you using between those 3, ignoring quarterback?
I think this is like the range. If we did our traditional love section, we wouldn't have really talked about Mixon probably.
Yeah.
But his role is so good.
Sick.
Like it's basically
Kyron Williams if Kyron Williams had yardage upside.
Like, I don't want to say that he's made CJ Stroud like unappealing, but I'm not into Stroud this week. A lot of it has to do with the fact that Nico accounts for like 40% of his yards, and he's kind of losing that. But Mixon's got at least 124 scrimmage yards in his 3 full games. He's just the focal point of the offense.
What is this? 28 points in 3 out of 4 games. My gosh.
Yeah. Like the red zone role is so good that it's kind of it's enough where I'm like, should I play Joe Mixon over Saquon due to the fact that he shouldn't lose touchdown equity?
The fact that he's making me think about that is a testament to Joe Mixon. Also testament to how bad the Colts are, but like that's a different thing.
Yeah, I mean, like some of their rushing metrics defensively are like okay.
Yeah.
That's maybe the lone hang up, but target shares are there.
Also, he did go for $159 against him in week 1.
That's
that
true,
same defense.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me just read you the top 3, their resumes. Not going to tell you who's who. Okay. One of these players, you'll be able to figure out who's who, but one of these players leads this trio in yards and scrimmage per game at 144.7 in his 3 full games. Again, that gives it away. And he leads with a 61% red zone share. Saquon Barkley, 127 yards per game, 42% red zone share. Derrick Henry, 134 yards per game, 35% or 36% red zone share. Like, man, Mixon's pretty good. I know he's due for regression because he's not going to always have like the efficiency he's had the past couple of weeks, but man, like he's good.
He deserves to be there. It's another reason why like Jordan Mason, I think I'm right out on.
100%. Yeah, exactly.
Like you just can't really justify that.
I think they also lower my appeal in Bijan, Gibbs, Connor, Kamara, Kareem Hunt, Montgomery, Taylor, everyone down to Breece Hall. I think if I'm going to be in that range, I'd just spend up for one of these 3 mega studs.
I might have a harder time ranking these 3 than I did the quarterbacks.
Yeah, it's hard.
I'd probably go like the more I think about it, the more I say like it should be Joe Mixon probably. He's the one at home. He's indoors.
Yeah.
How are you ranking these 3?
I don't know.
Okay. Now, we can still come back to the rankings, but this I think is the important question. We talked ourselves into like Lamar as the QB1. I'm not saying he's low salaried. He's probably a little undersalaried for what his true ceiling is. What percentage of your lineups is going to have one of these 3 running backs in it?
I hope a lot, but the problem is I want to use the high salaried receivers too. So
that's the thing. We need to figure out. We can't walk away from this show just being like, we like Henry, Barkley, Mixon, Chase, AJ Brown. Yeah. It's like who are the guys? And we need to figure that out. Even if it's not right this second before the end of the show, it doesn't do anyone any good if we're just like, yeah, we like the great plays.
I'm going Saquon 1. I've decided. Just that game. Like difference makers game environment. And he's got the best one.
I think Saquon is the one I have the most fear of, even though it should be Henry. Henry still can get a little bit limited. Mixon, the yardage is great. The offense gets a bit dinged without Nico, kind of a lot, honestly, but they're back indoors. I would probably go Barkley, Mixon, Henry, and I think I can definitively say if I'm getting Achane at 68, especially like open to Kincaid or a Cade Otton, save some salary tight end, I think my lineups have to have one of these three in them at like a 90% clip.
I think
like,
there are situations.
What do we do? Like, what are we doing if we're not using this value to play the guys who can get 30 points at running back?
Let me see if I can do this quick. Let's go with Joe Burrow. Get out of quarterback. We'll go with Mixon and Saquon just to save some salary. I'm going to go Achane. I could go Javonte, but I realistically would rather use Achane.
Yeah.
Kincaid, some dumb defense. I don't know. Brother.
I think the Falcons were kind of the name that I was scrolling up to first. that might also work. The Patriots.
So oh my gosh, you can go too.
That's the thing is like, what are we doing if we're not prioritizing these names?
I can't.
Oh my gosh, no.
I'm sorry. I can't spell. Yeah, you can get 2 in. Let's do it. Let's rock. I might have 2 in my main lineup this week. Although that means I can't get to the receiver. I might get 2.
But that's it.
But I think the key takeaway is I can go mix in with Jamar Chase. I can go mix in with AJ Brown. Like I can use one of those stud running backs and still get one of the stud receivers. And then that makes me salivate.
So like you can play Saquon with Jamar Chase.
How did I wind up on Troy Franklin as the player? Okay. Anyway, sorry. I got very
going back to what we started with at the top of the show, it's for me, yeah, you could play Achane, you could play Kenneth Walker, and not to besmirch him or anything, and like J.K. Dobbins, for example, or talk yourself into Chase Brown. You might be missing out.
Well, I think that you use Chase Brown and Achane in order to get to Mixon, get to Saquon, get to Henry. Use that leverage to get to the studs.
It's kind of an easy week to fall into because we'll get to receiver here in a second.
Yeah.
The 7,000 range. Oh, just play all those guys. You know, well, I don't want to bump down off of anyone in particular. It's like I want to play Saquon a ton.
Question for you.
I want Mixon.
Is our actual takeaway here 2 studs per lineup, whether it be a running back or receiver?
I think so. I think that's kind of what we're getting at.
I'm good with that. Okay, let's scroll down then. I'm going to skip over the entire 8,000 range. Do you object to me doing that?
No, I still like Gibbs. I think he's kind of separating from Montgomery a bit, and without Jameson, I think his role is going to get better. But then we get to Brees and Kenneth Walker. I would probably prefer them in most situations.
Okay. That's where I settled into as the next guys who called me. You mentioned I'm more the James Cook guy, which I am. Not this week. I think that with Walker and Brees both being there, I can easily avoid him. Preference for you between Brees and Walker?
Walker.
How it sounds pretty definitive. Is that correct?
Just feels like I would regret playing a guy in a game that could be one of the ugliest games I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Between the Patriots and Jets.
Yeah.
Like
Walker, I think, has higher odds of the 100-yard bonus too, because he can get there via rushing, whereas Brees not as efficient rush. Well, not him. His team is not efficient running the football. So Kenneth Walker can give me the 100-yard bonus, better red zone share. Like Brees' red zone share is 26% this year, whereas Walker's is 40% in the games he's played. So I I feel pretty good about Walker too, but did want to at least check on that.
You would have the ability to have implied team totals based on your model. Like the Jets do have a higher implied team total than the Seahawks.
I think mine would agree with that. I'm trying to do math. Again, journalism major, not a math major.
Yeah.
22 versus, oh my gosh. Why is this so
Okay.
hard?
I didn't mean to make
It's
this like
it's about the same, frankly.
Okay.
Yeah. Actually, I'm lower. Yeah. Anyway.
This though, like I'm sorry to like a Chase Brown. It's like we can get Brees who could get 100 yards receiving and or rushing. Like probably not going to get both in the same game. Kenneth Walker's great. We got to like narrow things down a bit.
I think that's where I set it on J.K. Dobbins.
Like Dobbins is out.
Yeah.
Chuba Hubbard's got a great role, but the matchup's terrible, so I'm not going there. Like Tank or ETN. Just
speaking of implied totals, like Chuba. I was listening to the Deep Dive podcast, Drew Dinsick, Andy Molitor. They do a great job like betting stuff, and they were talking on Monday about like, should we just bet the Panthers to get shut out in this game? This is before Bryce Young was announced as a starter.
Yeah.
I think it was like 31-1.
Yeah.
That's
so like,
where we're at there.
Pollard and game stacks, that's going to be out.
Yep.
Just too hard to.
I think Chubb's out too, frankly.
Chubb would be
against
out
a very tough rush defense.
But like, what about DeAndre Swift?
Yeah, so that's the thing is we get back to, I think that I skip over the entire 8,000 range at running back. I skip over everything from Kenneth Walker on down to Achane. Achane's
so
like
no Brees.
Oh, sorry, from Kenneth. Yeah. So I like Brees and Walker.
Yeah,
Achane, one of the top plays in the slate. That's fine by me. Then we have Chase Brown 66, DeAndre Swift 65, and Javonte Williams at $6,000. Like I don't mind using both. So like I don't mind the build of having Achane with either Swift or Brown in order to get Saquon Barkley, Joe Mixon, or Derrick Henry alongside one of the stud receivers. Like I don't mind using two value backs to get there, but I need to make sure I'm getting that. I can't use it for anything else. The Chase Brown case laid out before. DeAndre Swift, the case for him is that he's had 24 plus adjust opportunities in 25 plus in 3 straight games, 119 plus yards in scrimmage in all 3. The red zone role is getting a bit better, and there's no Jonathan Allen for the Commanders, which does make their rush defense worse than it was before. So I would go Swift over Brown in this range. I don't mind Swift alongside Achane. I think that works as long as I am using it to get to a stud running back and a stud receiver.
I'm going to lay something like this out to you.
Okay.
You can do, like, you could do Achane, Swift, and Javonte. Does that appeal to you? Because I can,
like, that's what I thought I'd be doing at the start of the week. Yeah. And like in a lineup where I have Hurts plus AJ Brown plus Jamar Chase, I might have to, and that's fine. I'm cool with that.
Because you can, if you play Kincaid, you can get like your high salaried Bengals, Eagles wide receiver stack. There's some other name, like you can get all the receivers in a sense. It's so hard to answer this question.
Well, I think this is why you have your game stack and then you build from there, because we have good plays in every range.
Yeah.
So that's why I start with the game stack and go from there. Like if I have a Hurts, Chase, Brown lineup, I need to be in the mid-range at running back, and I'm fine with that. But if I have a Joe Burrow, T. Higgins, Devontae Smith stack, I can get to Saquon Barkley and stuff like that. So I think that's why I want to go with that approach.
Yeah. We know there are options.
Yeah.
It's determining which route is most appealing to us.
Are you cool with Swift or no?
In a vacuum, yes. Among this entire slate, a little less so.
Okay. And where do you settle in on Javonte versus Swift? Because I know that we're higher on HN than Javonte, but
I'd go Swift over Javonte, but Javonte is at home and basically the best matchup possible.
Yeah.
That's not lost on me. If Javonte gets us 20, it's going to mitigate whatever Saquon or Mixon does to a degree. But I still feel better about... Like, I don't want to have to get to the 5,000 range at receiver, which I don't probably have to anyway. But I have more options at running back. This is I'm the one trying to get us to answer this question. I still can't answer it.
Okay. Loves at running back for me are going to be Saquon Barkley. Oh, Devon Achane 1. Devon Achane 1, Saquon Barkley 2. And DeAndre Swift or Kenneth Walker would be 3-4 for me.
I keep going back to Walker.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Okay. Receiver, give me your top stud. We didn't talk about CeeDee Lamb.
That's the thing. We didn't talk about CeeDee Lamb at all.
I'm kind of okay with that.
I kind of am too, although he could be the Sunday Night Hammer, and we could all
feel real silly.
Coming out of a bye, they got to get right.
Yeah. They tend to take a step back when they're outdoors, which is my comfort. I also think Santa Clara wins 8 miles per hour. That's not terrible, I guess, but it's higher than it typically is there. So something to note at least.
I think I'm going AJ Brown slightly over Ja'Marr Chase, which feels wrong already, but
no, I think I agree with you.
It's because he's clearly their top receiver.
Yeah,
and I know long-term Ja'Marr Chase is the top receiver in their offense, but right now he's got way more competition than AJ Brown does. And AJ
Brown's probably getting a 35% target share in a neutral game script.
Yes.
Well, 35 is an aggressive projection, but he's gotten 35 so far.
Yeah, every game.
Yeah. So I think I go AJ Brown over Ja'Marr Chase too, but they're both phenomenal.
And even though I like Saquon the most of the top 3, I can go to Mixon or Henry if I get to Brown instead.
Yeah, totally. I think that makes sense too. Okay, Amon-Ra, probably not going to get there. Too much juice among between Brown and Chase.
Yes.
Stephon Diggs is $2,000 over salaried. RIP Mike Evans. RIP DK Metcalf. I think the appeal in Chase and Brown really hurts Drake London for me in a divisional rematch. I like Drake London. What?
I was like, what? Chase and Brown? But not Chase Brown, but Chase and Brown.
Who's Chase? Oh,
it took me. I was like,
yeah.
Wait, are you talking about the low salaried running backs, Chase and Brown? Yeah, that's kind of what happened there.
I'm not super into Drake London at 79. I think I'd rather just dip down to Tyreek Hill, T. Higgins, Devontae Smith.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I like Drake London a lot, but it's one of those. Boy, I played Drake London over Tyreek Hill. Why? What am I doing?
Is Tyreek Hill the wide receiver 1 at salary compared to? Okay. Okay.
I don't see a case what name a case against it other than wind.
I can't.
And you can't.
And
wind, we account for wind, but come on.
We don't freak out for wind. We account for it, but we don't freak out.
Yeah.
And it is what it is. Achane or Tyreek Hill is the bigger priority for the Dolphins?
I think it has to be Tyreek.
Okay. I think it's Achane personally, but
he has way more slate changing upside than Achane does.
That is accurate. I changed my mind. You're right. Okay. T. Higgins about Devontae Smith pretty comfortably, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. But we like both. So
yes.
I would knock Smith down if Dallas Goedert plays. Do you want to put that out there? Anything called to you in the lower 7,000 range? Because it's not to me. If I'm being picky, nothing's calling out.
That's the thing. We got to get picky, which I love a game stack. We love a game stack more than anything. Probably not going to get to Marv.
Nope.
So
vibes are bad. Not his fault always, but it's bad vibes. Worthy, $1,000 over salaried, $1,500 over salaried. Amari, fine, but not a priority at 71.
Correct.
Are you gonna have any Tank?
He's the name that's appealing. I know. Yeah, the 0 last week cost me on our head-to-head, which now I'm really.
Do you do players who got shot in the offseason in Tank Dell, Ricky Pearsall stack, or is that not something we're looking towards?
I'm not, but Tank Dell is indoors against the bad defense. His routes were down, but this is also kind of like a low-key run-heavy team. Joe Mixon's playing well. Point being, his per target numbers are actually really good, and I see a case for a big game from Tank Dell, but I'm probably not going to get there. If I wanted to stack this game, I would get there, but I'm probably not going to do that.
Yeah. I might have some just because I still like him. Matchup's good. They're back indoors, so kind of like a buy low situation. Yeah. I do want to mention DJ Moore at 66. I'm not into Caleb Williams because the Commanders defense has played well enough recently, but DJ Moore's salary is $6,600, pretty good compared to his role. In the games that Keenan Allen has been active, 26% target share for Moore, 36% deep, 36% or 38% inside the red zone. 66 isn't bad. I don't know how often I'll be in this range, frankly, just because I want to go kind of stars and scrubs this week. But like if I had 66 left, I'm not going to rearrange to get away from him. I would just use DJ Moore and feel okay about it. That's how I'd phrase it there.
I think that's a good call. I like him way more than Brian Thomas, whose role is getting better and more stable. I think he's a good football player, obviously, and it's a fun game based on the total. But like Moore over Brian Thomas, over JSN, over Keenan.
I put him over Tank, obviously.
Yeah, I would go him over Tank.
Yeah.
Over Darnell Mooney.
He's the top 6,000 range wide receiver. Well,
what about
Juwan Jennings?
I was going to say, if Jennings is full, he's the best one.
Yeah.
But more over Dobbs.
Yep.
Yeah.
Pretty easily for me.
Yeah, 6,000 range is pretty not great.
It's pretty bleak, which kind of reaffirms, it could be just confirmation bias, but stars and scrubs kind of weak. Jennings 61, if he's full by Friday, would be like a cash game single line of consideration for me, just because like we've seen him get downfield work even when Ayuk was there. If Debo plays and he becomes less of a priority, like not a cash game consideration for me, but I'd still use him in tournaments. Like he's shown he actually has upside this year, which is a deviation from what I thought he had before. So I'd like him quite a bit. Dobbs is fine at 61. Kind of like more where if I wind up there, or if I have an Evan Ingram lineup and I want to plug Dobbs in there too, I'm fine with it. Anything else called to you here in the low 6,000 range?
Where are we? Low 6,000, no. Okay. But Waddle, then we get to Jalen Waddle, and we get to figure out like how much is too much. Yep. He's not 100%. Mm-hmm. He's a better football player than he's like putting on paper in the past 2 years. It's one of those spots where like we could really get like excited, and then he gets us 11.
I have no recollection of him getting the 100-yard bonus in week 1.
I don't either. Your little like avatar head is covering up his result there, and I was
trying to move it, but I can't. Like I can't scroll because there's nothing to scroll with. I think I can get rid of that though. Let me see here.
Like how much is too much?
There we go.
I'll look at you.
Well, I don't think I'll have to worry about that with him just because like I like Achane and Tyreek more. So I don't think I'll get to the how much is too much situation with Waddle personally. I think I'll be naturally held in check a bit. And I don't mind him with Achane or with Hill, but I think that'll naturally kind of put a lid on it for me.
Yeah.
Okay. Scrolling down further, anything called to you in the high 5,000 range?
High fives. In a different week, I'd probably take a swipe at Cortland Sutton, but not this week. Too many good receiver plays. I think nothing until we get to Nuke at 54.
Yeah. Hopkins 54 is like the main guy I feel good about in the 5,000 range. Other considerations there are Pearsall, dependent on the health of Debo. If Debo and Jennings both play, no Pearsall. If one of them is out, some Pearsall. If they're both out, then an okay amount of Pearsall. Still not like a cash game guy for me.
Yeah.
But in the consideration set there. And then other one being Joe McMillan at 49.
Would you do Tillman because we like Lamar?
Probably not. I think I'd rather go to Njoku.
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know. Would you?
Like if you play Cedric Tillman with Lamar, what does that get me here?
It gets you a lot.
Like that's the thing. Yes, and then if you, I know you love Sam Laporta, but if you plug in another lower salaried tight end, not even just Kincaid, you probably get a lot of freedom.
Yeah. Maybe this is the thing is like if I'm using Lamar, Tillman would be my favorite low 5, like very low salaried receiver. Is that a fair way to put it? Maybe.
Yes, and I want to clarify that I'm probably gonna play Lamar against you in like my head-to-head, which I always deem as like my best possible lineup I can build.
Yeah,
Tillman will not be part of that.
Yeah.
But more tournaments,
Yeah.
where I would be open to it, but he's game stacks only with Lamar.
Okay. And then where do we go? Between Nuke, Pearsall, and McMillan. McMillan won for you, 49?
Like it's McMillan, or sorry, it's like Pearsall without Debo and Jennings.
Yeah.
McMillan as it is now. I don't know. It's like going McMillan over Hopkins, like just the dumbest thing ever.
I don't think it's the dumbest thing. I would go Hopkins personally, but I don't think it's the dumbest thing ever.
All right. Pearsall without Jennings and Debo. Is he better for you than Hopkins?
Without both? Sure. Because he's a first round pick, Kyle Shanahan. Yeah.
So I'd go, Pearsall in those conditions, Nuke, McMillan, Pearsall with one active.
One of them not playing.
And then if both are active, then I'm out.
Yep. I agree. I think that's the right ranking. Okay. We talked through it all. Loves a receiver. Who you got?
Tyreek.
Yep.
AJ Brown. T.
Okay. I'm going to put Waddle in the love category too.
He's close.
And then realistically, I'll be in the low 5,000 range a lot. So Nuke is
You think so?
Yeah, because I want to go stars and scrubs. And if I need to like do that in order to get both Saquon and Jamar Chase or Joe Mixon and AJ Brown, I'm fine with it.
Yeah. Hopkins is the right play.
Okay. Tight end. I said there before, there are 8 guys I want to use. Probably not going to use all 8, but we get Kittle with everyone dust. He's also banged up because he always is, but he always plays through because he's a freak. Kelsey is down to $6,900. What stands out to you at tight end?
I think the health for Kittle's enough and the salary is enough where like a Tyreek versus Kittle, that's I need to get my priorities in order. He's very good. I love that he's back, but I don't know. Are you trying to prioritize Kittle?
I would like to have a non-zero number of lineups, but he's like a FOMO guy because he can drop 150 and 2 on me.
Yeah. That's like the Tyreek Hill conversation.
Like I wouldn't want to use him in place of Tyreek Hill, but instead alongside Tyreek Hill.
What do you think the odds he is good to go? Like full by Friday, I guess.
They called him day to day, so I would say full by Friday odds are 68%.
Okay. Kittle, I want to point out Brock Bowers. Like in comparison, the Chiefs are letting up 2.26 yards per route run to tight ends this year. And he's got yardage upside. He's got volume upside. It feels weird to go to someone in this offense in lieu of like Kittle or Kelsey. I do think he has like slate changing upside if he has a touchdown in like one of those 90, 100-yard games. He gets it.
I do like that he's giving the 100-yard bonus just a middle finger, like a firm middle finger.
I was like,
maybe double-barreled? Yeah, double-barreled middle finger.
He's got over 93 or more in 3 games. If he gets that and a touchdown, we're talking about like...
Yeah.
Now, the salary's up. I get that, but...
Yeah. Salary's up, bad offense. They're big underdogs, like bad vibes. Gardner Minshew.
I don't know. I could see like
what I guess like
Bowers and Hopkins together.
I know the role is what it is, but like if I could use a tight end attached to Josh Allen for $4,000 versus a tight end attached to Gardner Minshew at 74, I feel like I'd kind of kick myself if I went Bowers. Despite the fact his role is amazing and he's an amazing player, situation says I probably can't do it this week.
I just think like Kansas City's getting torched. And it could be a bring back with Hopkins, which could be fun. It's more I want to lampshade him.
Yeah.
But I think I'd rather go Kittle if he's healthy. Where are you with Kelsey, though?
Like in another slate, I'd use him because I think that his role is pretty good. And he's now his salary's down enough. He's got a 20 25% share in 2 games without Rice. He's not facing Fred Warner this week, which is good. He's at the other black hole, which is the Raiders. Fred Warner is the black hole as far as tight end production. That they call themselves the black hole. So I guess that was more in Oakland. But this week, with all the tight end options, probably not going to get there, which kind of bums me out. But I think that's the way I have to play it.
I agree. I'm also lower on, naturally, I would like Trey McBride.
Yeah, I'm not going to get
against all these Dolphins, but I don't like this offense. This is not a great situation overall, I don't think.
Okay. Engram, 62. Laporta, who you think is the worst football player of all time, 6,000. Before we get to Njoku, anyone else you want to shout out / touch on here? Pitts' role's been better, at least 57. But
Kraft is fine if you kind of like that game, but I don't see myself loading up on Jaguars, so probably not going to get there.
Okay. So I still like Laporta, and I will use Laporta. Not aggressively. He is a differentiation piece. 15 to 20% roster rate for me, but that's enough.
I thought you liked using your tight ends with quarterbacks. Like that's where I'm.
I mean,
I do. Titans.
I do, but also I like that because typically they're tied to high implied totals, and the Lions might have they don't have the highest implied total this week. It's a very high one. I think Detroit is at 27.5, which is actually highest this week. So highest implied total on the slate. Usage bump likely incoming because his teammate is suspended. He's done it before. $6,000. That's enough. We'll all use him.
I want to clarify. I'm going to use him as well. I'm just a little less certain about this than Jim.
I am not looking forward to the slack. Why did I use Laporta at 235 Central on Sunday?
Oh, what's that? He didn't score every 30 yards like he did last year? What was I thinking?
Okay.
Njoku might be the. I know we talked about Tillman and being open to that. Njoku with Lamar might very well be in my main lineup.
I think that's fair.
His role's great. He's a good football player. So you're kind of banking on some life for Lamar to have the game he can. So I think Njoku might, in a way, be my tight end one.
Sure.
Kincaid is so obviously the tight end one in a sense, but other than that, and to get different, Njoku is very, very close to me.
I think I agree with that on Njoku. I think that having Njoku at 55 pushes me off of Jonnu Smith, who I had some interest in at the beginning of the week, but I think I can shove off that now. K. Dotton 52 works. Not opposed to him. But I think if I'm going loves a tight end, it's going to be Kincaid, the cash game play, and still some for tournaments, and then probably Njoku too. I think those are my 2 loves at tight end this week.
I think that's where I would have landed as well.
Defense. I'll have a non-zero number of Patriots. Their soft defense against the Jets, just because it's a low salary, it's a low total game. I've got I took the Patriots +7 in this game. This is a do as I say, not as I do. I'm desperate at times, and I might need to get out to 33. So it is what it is. Beyond that, I agree with you on the Falcons, given how beat up the Buccaneers offense is. It's a divisional rematch. I don't think there's a lot of wind in Tampa. Wind speeds this week in Tampa, 7 miles per hour. So that's not going to help there, but I think they're fine at 36. I also wouldn't hate the Buccaneers defense at 37, given that the Falcons are throwing the ball a lot. There's a path there at least. Elsewhere at defense, I like the Lions at 4,000. That's a very low salary to face Mason Rudolph without DeAndre Hopkins. If I could get to the Lions, I would use them a lot.
I was actually going to ask. That's the first defense I got to where I'm actively want to get there.
Why are also the Texans? And then they won't face a lot of passing volume, but brother, when they do pass.
I don't know. We have so much salary to play with.
Yeah.
We don't really spend. We try to. There's a reason we scroll up from the bottom. At defense, I'm sure everyone else does as well, but there's some legitimate potential with the Lions.
Yes, there is.
And that should probably be noted.
Yep. So I think it's the Lions if I can get there. Otherwise, I'm cool with the Falcons, cool with the Bucks, cool with the Patriots at times, and then also okay with getting to the Texans if I have too much Lions in my life. That's probably it for me for defense.
Yeah, because it's a good week for offenses, it's down for the defenses for me.
Okay. Any final thoughts for you now that we have talked through the slate?
I feel really good about our way to get access to the studs, which is nice. I think Saquon, AJ Brown. I keep going back to those two names, which should probably bump me up on that whole game, but I'm already high on that game as it is.
Yeah, I think that game rocks. I think the big deviation for me is I'm higher on Lamar now because I know that I can still get exposure to that game via the skill players and suck up a lot of the production there. So higher on Lamar than I was, but still want to have a lot of Hurts, a lot of Burrow in my life as well. That is all that we have here for today on the Heat Check. Back with you once again next week to break down the Week 9 main slate, 10 a.m. Eastern on this brand new YouTube page. Check us out there. Hit subscribe if you like what you hear. Make sure to leave us a thumbs up as well. We appreciate those of you watching over there as always, tuning in and interacting in the comments section as well. Don't forget to subscribe to the FanDuel Research podcast feed to get these podcasts as they go live each and every Thursday as well. Brandon, people have questions for you on X. Where can they find you there?
At Gdula13, GDULA13.
I am on X at JimSannes. You can find FanDuel Research on X at FanDuel Research. Big thank you to our YouTube producer, Justin Lane, for his work in the video side of things. Thank you, Justin, as always, and thank you all for tuning in. Good luck to you with your Week 8 DFS lineups. We'll talk to you once again next week. This has been the Heat Check, a FanDuel Research podcast.